everyone. You are welcome to the JMA Connections. Today, my people, is Monday, April 24, 2023. Accept liberation greetings, my dear people of Amazonia, my brave warriors of the liberation movement of the Southern Cameroons. Today is another great and important day in the history of our liberation movement. I know an important anniversary passed us by very briefly, and a lot of us did not actually pay attention, and so we did not really mark that day, but it is one of the most important days in the history of our liberation movement because that day not only marks a turning point in ensuring our freedom. That day also is a revelation of exactly what has been happening to us since 1961, and that day is April 21, 1961 was the day that at the UN General Assembly there was a vote for the independence of the Southern Cameroons. And they took that vote, and overwhelmingly, a majority of the members of the UN General Assembly voted for independence for Southern Cameroons. A good majority voted for independence for Southern Cameroons. And among the big countries that also voted for the independence of the Southern Cameroons are literally all the superpowers, with the exception of France. Of course, you had the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, although they got into a shoddy deal with France and the Republic of Cameroon over the Southern Cameroons, but all the same, they recognized that it was important for us to be independent before we go into signing any form of union treaty with the Republic of Cameroon, a union treaty that never got signed at the end of the day. And so the British voted for the independence of the Southern Cameroons. Russia voted for the independence of the Southern Cameroons. The United States of America voted for the independence of the Southern Cameroons. And the United States did not just end up voting. The U.S. ambassador at the United Nations at the time, Zadlowski, made clear that what they felt was that they needed to congratulate the people of the Southern Cameroons on attaining independence and warned against any kind of forced union hurriedly between the people of the Southern Cameroons and the Republic of Cameroon. And he said it could produce what it is producing today, that the result of it would be catastrophic. Today, we are paying with our blood. We are paying with the lives of our young people, paying with the lives of the most vulnerable people in our community. We are paying with the lives of our mothers, our sisters. We are paying the price very heavily today. So, my people of Amazonia, that day is particularly important because it's that day that is making it difficult for the Republic of Cameroon to claim anywhere that we are not really an entity. It is that day that makes the Republic of Cameroon's claim of a certain one and indivisible Cameroon shallow. It is that day that informed erudite barrister Akeremuna, who took his pen in 2016 and wrote an article titled "Who Told You?" or rather titled that Cameroon is one and indivisible. Which Cameroon? And in that article, he went on to demonstrate clearly that we were two separate entities and write down along those historical facts. This is absolutely important for us to know. So, April 21 is very important. Also important because that day was a revelation. It was a big revelation. Big revelation because the attitude that we're seeing in the Republic of Cameroon today, it didn't start today, was way back in 1961. Because at the behest of France, the Republic of Cameroon, France, and about all French-speaking African countries, with the exception of Mali, voted against the independence of the Southern Cameroons. Meantime, a plebiscite had already been conducted on February 11, at which the people of the Southern Cameroons voted overwhelmingly to join with La République du Cameroun in a union of two parties equal in status upon achieving independence. So that on the February 11th, that vote was an intention by the people of the Southern Cameroons to achieve their independence and then join with La République du Cameroun in a union of two parties equal in status. But now this is La République du Cameroun that should be waiting anxiously for the Southern Cameroons to achieve its independence and then also to sign a union treaty and join the way it ought to be. The same La République du Cameroun voted against the independence of the Southern Cameroons. Listen, this was a precursor, a very serious warning. I said on this platform several times that anytime people tell us who they are the very first time, we should believe them. Because by that very act, on April 21, 1961, La République du Cameroun demonstrated clearly that its intention was annexationist. I don't know why people didn't look at it at the time. I don't know whether they did analyze it. I don't know whether it came to their mind or they just said, after all, whether they voted for independence or not, we have had the majority. But the vote of La République du Cameroun was particularly important, the direction that they voted. La République du Cameroun wanted the United Nations to deny us independence so that we will not be making the claims that we're making today. So that we will not be reminding them as we are doing today that we're a people, we're an entity, we're an independent country just like them, that they have stolen. So La République du Cameroun knew that if on that day the independence vote for Southern Cameroon was defeated, they would simply annex us against international law. Because in 1960, at the dawn of independence of most African countries and at the creation of the Organization of African Unity, which today has been inherited by the African Union, they passed the law freezing the boundaries of the various states at independence. That's as soon as you achieved independence, your boundaries were frozen. So expansion was forbidden and would become a crime. And La République du Cameroun gained independence on January 1, 1960. So its boundary was frozen on January 1, 1960, without the territory of the Southern Cameroons. Now to expand, they simply needed, therefore, that these people have nowhere to go and they have of their own volition come to me. So they have to vote against independence for the Southern Cameroons. I'm highlighting this point so that those people who by day and by night still sit and are imagining that you can get into any form of anything with La République du Cameroun, do note that what we have gone through is not just a matter of bad governance. Because some people sit and claim that, oh, you see, the same problems that we're facing in the Southern Cameroons or the former UN Trust territory of Southern Cameroons, they are the same problems that the other regions, or that the 8 regions of the République du Cameroun are facing. And I tell people, don't ever go there. Don't ever equate us. Because if you do, you are being totally mistaken. Because we didn't have to be there in the first place. And so therefore, La République du Cameroun's intentions to take us as a conquered people, to annex us, to exploit us, and to treat us as a colonized people was manifested right on April 1, 1961. Our people simply, our forebears simply did not pay sufficient attention, because if they did, they would have realized that La République du Cameroun had already thrown the dice on the table. In April, that day was April 21, 1961. So therefore, we should note that whatever has been unfolding is La République du Cameroun simply implementing It's an annexationist policy. So those who sit and are trying to brainwash some people by saying, oh, it's important, let's just give them a chance. No, 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 no. I'm coming to that. So why I wanted us to go back to revisit this important anniversary is so that we should recall all this. That what La République Cameroun is doing now was planned since 1961. Well, we're not necessarily thinking, our forebears were thinking, we're getting into something with some people who can easily call brother. They already had in mind exactly where they will be by 1984. That's why in 1984, Biya did not need another wishy-washy referendum. All we needed to do was simply sign a decree, change the name of the country from the United Republic of Cameroon to the Republic of Cameroon, completing the cycle, completely swallowing the Southern Cameroons. Because already by 1972, they had already shifted from the Federal Republic of Cameroon that will show that two parts came together to United Republic of Cameroon, and even already shattered, took off the boundaries and everything, just so that gradually, the day they will remove the name, the United, we don't call it the Republic of Cameroon, nobody will even bother, or we won't even notice what must have happened. So it was a coup planned a long time ago. So nobody should deceive you to tell you that, oh, this thing is just because the policies have not been good, they have not been. No. The plan was to assimilate, was to annex and assimilate us completely. And it was hashed way back in 1961. And on April 21, 1961, the intention was clearly manifested and clearly demonstrated before the entire world. We should never forget this. Anytime you forget this, know, my dear people of Amazonia, that you are killing a good portion of our history that is required to get those who are moving around and doing sophistry and trying to confuse the minds of the people to know exactly where we stand. The Munzus will not like anybody to talk about this date. No, the Munzus will not like this date. Because if you are reminded about this date and you are told exactly what happened on this date, the significance of the attitude of La République du Cameroun on this date, then the Munzus will not have any place again to be able to tell you all the nonsense that they are saying. Then those who call themselves federalists will no longer have a place or a foothold to stand and try to continue with the deception. This is why it is important for us to recall this day and the things that happened on this day. This is why we should never give up in this liberation movement until we get to where we intend to get to. That's why, my people, I want to share this thought with each and every one of us. Good things come to those who believe. Better things come to those who are patient. And best things come to those who don't give up. And what is the best thing ever for us, the people of Amazonia, the people of the UN Trust Territory, or the former UN Trust Territory of British Southern Cameroon? What is best for us than the freedom that we are seeking? So that generations upon generations of Southern Cameroonians will not live in the bondage that we are living right now. So that generations upon generations of Southern Cameroonians will have the opportunity to determine their own development priorities. So that the children that we're bearing today, their children and their children's children, will be able to sit in a beautiful country where rights are respected, where the people believe in accountability, where the people know how to hold their governments to account, where election is not a mere formality. My people of Amazonia, this part is very important and fundamental as we prosecute our liberation movement. Good things come to those who believe. Better things come to those who are patient. And best things come to those who don't give up. If you don't give up, you will definitely live to enjoy the fruits of your labor. If we give up, then our status will be worse than what it is now, than what it was before. Never ever accept at any given point to settle for less than you deserve. Because I've always said on this platform that anytime you settle for less than you deserve, you will end up with less than you settled for. That is the predicament of those who want to take shortcuts. Look at, I always say this and I illustrate. Some people went to Mr. Paul Bia's Grand National Monologue, which he incidentally called dialogue. And they came away from there with something they called spatial status. They themselves, until this day, don't even know what that spatial status was all about. Even the government of the Republic itself that proposed them, that spatial status, until today doesn't even know what it had to look like. And today I ask them every day, where is that your spatial status? They can't even know exactly what it is. Why? Because they settled for less than they deserved. And consequently, they have ended up with absolutely nothing, not even with less than than they settled for, with absolutely nothing. This is why I tell people we have to go all the way. In my last broadcast, I recalled here that from the moment La République du Cameroun set its foot in our territory, they only kept taking things and going. I've seen a lot of reminders in text of people saying, oh, you forgot about the airports, you forgot about this, you forgot about that. Of course, the Yoke power plant was uprooted, carried to La République. Of course, PWD, all the equipment, carried to La République. Of course, the National Produce Marketing Board, carried to La République. Of course, Cameroun Bank, carried to La République. Everything. But in return, what has ever come from La République to our land? The gendarmes of La République, of course, have invaded our land. The police of La République have invaded our land. We took police to them. They confiscated it from us. And to this day, not a single Southern Cameroonian has ever been the police chief in that country. Yes. So the only things that have taken from La République du Cameroun to our land, the gendarmerie, the army, corruption, rampant embezzlement, election rigging, horrible underdevelopment, terrible poverty. In short, all the corollaries, those are the things that have been brought to our territory by the Republic du Cameroun. And the only thing that they brought to us is this calamity, therefore. This checklist of calamities I've just mentioned. That's all the Republic du Cameroun brought to our territory. But they took away the soul of our land. I recall this because it's important for us to know. To always bear in mind why we should never ever give up. I'm not leaving this subject matter. I just want to make this quick reminder. And then we'll wrap up with this subject matter. Listen. On Saturday, April 29, 2023, we will be in Minnesota. We will be in Minnesota. This is a continuation of the leadership tour that we initiated as a build-up to the All Ambazonia conference that will be coming up somewhere in July of 2023. And so therefore, if you are in Minnesota, mark the date. Saturday, April 29. That's just a few days from today, 5 days from today. And this event will begin at exactly 1 p.m. at 1355 US 10 Anoka, Minnesota. And of course, this flyer is here. You can zoom it at any time to see the time on this flyer. And please make sure to be at this event. If you are in Minnesota or anywhere in the environs, make sure to come join us. It will be another moment of frank exchanges. We will together discuss the salient issues that need to be addressed at this point in time to sharpen our resolve to ensure that we get a free homeland. Don't miss this appointment. In Atlanta, we really did not stage the event as we intended to because at the last minute it was agreed to that there were a few touches that needed to be made again, but we had at least a great meeting on the 15th, on April 15th, 2023 with a lot of frank discussions. In Toronto, in Canada, we went ahead to have a fantastic meeting, heavily attended, at which funds were raised, whose figures will be announced pretty soon as we all mobilize towards a very successful All Ambazonia Conference in July of 2023. So therefore, please, my brethren, don't miss this rendezvous. We will be there and it will be a moment of total frank talk, like I said. There will be no taboo subject. Let us put everything on the table. Examine all the pros and cons, all the strengths and weaknesses of our liberation movement, and look at the strategy that we have couched going forward, and see where there are loopholes and enrich it together to ensure that we get a free homeland. So, our brethren in Minnesota, don't miss this important rendezvous. If you haven't put that yet on your calendar, do. Saturday, April 29, and the time 1 p.m. And the venue is 1355-1355 US 10, Anoka, Minnesota. So don't miss that important rendezvous. And now I want to go back to what I was talking about at the start. The need for us to continue to be strong, for us to continue to move ahead in this liberation movement. Listen, my people, by our determination, by our steadfastness, some of those names that before will say, oh no, federalism, yes, I'm thinking about it, are gradually beginning to admire our tenacity. I talked to you the last time about the beleaguered elite. I talked to you about some who sit and call themselves our elite, but who in effect are a huge distraction, who in effect are a problem even to themselves, who in effect are people that are in wait for what Paul Biya will do to them. I will get to that somewhere in this communication. So, just so that we will all see for ourselves exactly how some of those people who think they can dim our hopes, who think they can mess up our dream to have a good homeland, when they will see for themselves what La République Cameroun is reserving for them. So you see, this is Samuel Ekontan Elad saying here in very triumphant terms, I praise the young people who are fighting. I know you've seen this title before, but I'm bringing it here to put it in context so we can see and understand for ourselves what is happening in the minds of our people as we continue to change things gradually. Listen, folks, we are getting to that place where La République du Cameroun will one day realize that they need to just gather their things and leave our territory. You have heard about the noise, the brouhaha concerning Chad and La République du Cameroun's plans or actions. Because after stealing from the southern Cameroons as much as they could, after clearing our natural resources, after, tapping the gas on the southern Cameroons and using the money among themselves, they felt that they needed to extend their thieving tentacles to Chad. And of course, there are already consequences that we will be seeing in a very little moment. But I was sharing this view by Samuel Ekontan Elad just so that our young people should know we are on the right trajectory. We are overcoming. These are people, there were three of them that we all knew when we were reading the history of the Southern Cameroons, especially from the All Anglophone Conference 1 that took place in Boya in 1993, and then, of course, the AAC2, which eventually led to the formation of the Southern Cameroon's National Council. There were three names that were famous. You had Samuel Ekontan Elad, you had Professor Carlson Anyangwe, and then you had Dr. Munzu, Simon Munzu. Now you see why Simon Munzu has said to be talking with water in his mouth and trying to babble left and right because he wants to deceive us. He wants to make us go and stay permanently in slavery and servitude under the Republic du Cameroon, because he has had some goodies. Of course, he has been a Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, and of course, he was recommended by the Republic du Cameroon. And so he believes that if he succeeds in keeping us in bondage, there will be much more to come. But you see, Professor Carlson Anyangwe has been steadfast with us in this liberation movement for the total freedom of our land. And now he is joined by Samuel Ekontan Ella, who says, I praise the young people who are fighting. Because he knows freedom has never been picked and handed to anybody on a platter of gold. If you ever thought that happened anywhere, trust me, folks, that one is a huge lie. We have to keep fighting. And it is not by error that you see his pictures side by side, that of Comrade Abdul Karim Ali. This is another young man who has stood up and has said he's ready to give everything to ensure that we get this freedom. While on the one hand, Ekontan Ella is saying, I praise the young people who are fighting. You have Abdul Karim just by him that tells you these are the lights. He understands, and he is coming right back home to the fold of those who know that in dealing with the Republic du Cameroon, the only way you do, shut them out, or you will forever remain slaves. A brief interlude, and I'll be right back. Yes, thank you, Amoda. So I'm right back. And I was talking, therefore, about this elite that I pointed out in my last show. I like us to, try to go from the example of Samuel Kontan Ellard, who has realized that if he can descend into the arena himself to fight, he needs at least to encourage those who have decided to take the bull by the horns to go out there and fight. Those who continue to be headstrong, something is awaiting them. Take a look at this. You see, you must have seen this headline, but I'm bringing it because I want us together to put it in context. Northwest governor accuses funds of fortifying Amba fighters. Listen, my people. Anytime, this is the African proverb that says it, anytime you carry ant-infested firewood into your house, trust me, lizards will come visiting. Sounds familiar? I say anytime you carry ant-infested firewood into your house, expect the visit of lizards. That is what it is. So you see here, this is a governor, an appointed official from La République du Cameroun, having the guts to put his finger into the eyes of our funds. Oh, how La République du Cameroun has trampled on our culture. These funds, we used to see them as demigods, people with powers from above, with supernatural powers, people that at the mention of the name you revere them. Oh yes, they were almost worshipped, almost. But trust me, we have to worship humans. But I say our funds were almost worshipped. But the Republic du Cameroun has helped to water down the authority of our funds to a level never before imagined. To the point divisional officers, a divisional officer, a DO, a civil servant at that low rung can have the guts now to tell our funds, if you play, I will fire and replace you. Oh yes. And that's not even according to our tradition. You and I saw these funds. We saw them assembled, conducted by Fon Bambi of Adam in Menchum County, specifically in Wum local government area. and called on so-called elite and the government to give them money to perform traditional rites against their own children to weaken them so that La République du Cameroun will prevail against them. So that the talks of La République du Cameroun will prevail against them. They have done things with them in the background. Some have even buried portions in places, buried animals alive. Some even claim that they even buried plus humans alive to help La République du Cameroun to prevail against our brave hearts. When you find Mr. Lele Lafrique Adolphe de Benjofo crying out today and accusing these same funds who are eating and dining with him, who have all taken sides with Mr. Paul Biya's CPD regime against their own people, with the exception of a tiny few. When you see the colonial governor accusing them, it is because they gave the impression to this colonial governor that they could fortify the army of La République du Cameroun to overcome their own children. What they fail to understand is that our gods don't fight a war of blame. No! When you involve the spirits in a war of blame, you lose it. Look at how they tinified the funds. La République has tinified the funds to the point where they gather them like school children, put them in a room and lecture them on what they need to do to help a colonial administration to maintain its colonial dominance on their people. This is what you get when you settle for less than you deserve. This is what you get. At the end of the day, some of the funds even had to transform themselves into errand boys, going out of their way to go and try to see how to set up their own subjects. And in the process, some disappeared. No one knows where they are today and no word from the administration. You see the speed with which we went out to negotiate to get Mahmoudi released. It's not the same frenzy that we have seen with respect to the situation of the Fon of Bambala, who until today nobody can tell where he is. The Fon of Bambala, who went out to do La République du Cameroun's bidding, who went out to call close to himself and set up his own son, Mbashi Clement, aka No Pity. And how did it end? Listen, and today, that same administration is shamelessly blaming the same funds who are there dining with them. Listen, this is just a purview. This is a purview of what is going to happen to those so-called elite who are in Yaoundé deceiving Mr. Paul Biya that they are in control. I said so before, and this is a purview, because when the time will come, you will see newspaper headlines more than this one accusing all those so-called elite of being part of the reason La République du Cameroun lost Amazonia. Because, my people, the wheel is turning and this situation is irreversible. Amazonia will be free and there is nothing anybody can do about it. There's nothing La République du Cameroun can do about it, not even France. You recall, Honorable Weber told them this in their own House of Assembly, that when the people of the Southern Cameroons, he said West Cameroon, but I insist on Southern Cameroons, of Amazonia will rise, you will bring the entire army of France and add them to your own, and you will not be able to overcome. When the spirit possesses you, you say things that even you yourself can sit tomorrow and ask yourself, did I really say this? And that's exactly what happened. You also heard when our own Pastor San Wilfred, on January 6, 2017, said by Monday, that's when we at the consortium called the first ever ghost town, nationwide ghost town. When I say nation, I mean Southern Cameroons. And he said by Monday, we will know who controls our land. And what happened on that Monday? Unimaginable. The entire southern Cameroon was shut down from Boya through Victoria, Kumba, Manfe to Widikum, Batibo, Mbengui, Bamenda, Wum, Kumbo, every single village. Yes, including places as remote as Njungo, even places as totally enclaved as Elumba, even places totally enclaved as Fonfuka in Boom, all of them, even in Furawa, every place was shut down on January 9, 2017. And suppose said that was really prophetic. What was he counting on? We had no army. Amber boys were nowhere in sight at the time. It didn't happen yet. So we had nothing to enforce this but the truth. The only thing that we had to enforce this ghost town call was the truth. The truth, which is self-evident, that the people of the southern Cameroons were a people who are independent and which country had been stolen, and that country needs to be vomited out by the Republic of Cameroon. We need to restore our land. We need to get back our stolen country. This was the truth that kept people in their houses on January 9, 2017. That truth. Yeah. And that same spirit therefore moved ahead to get into Honorable Weber, who made those prophetic declarations. We have seen that the Republic of Cameroon has brought soldiers from Chad. They have brought from Equatorial Guinea. They have brought from all over the place. They have brought contributions from everywhere. Nothing. Against untrained self-defense volunteers. Nothing. We are riding high. They'll see at some point and say, oh, you see, it's finished. Normalcy has returned. It's just a matter of time. But before long, things get worse. This is because I need my people of Ambazonia to know this. In 2008, when Mr. Barack Obama won elections to be president of the United States of America, and after his inaugural in 2009, the country was facing a huge crunch, economic crunch. The housing crisis was terrible. It was serious depression. It needed to be fixed, right? Some could have written out America. But he said, it will get worse before it gets better. And this is very important for us to note. In this liberation movement, there are times when things will get bad. It may even get worse before it finally gets better. Because the best is yet to come. Because there is no way we will ever surrender to the Republic of Cameroon. Because there is no way we will ever surrender our future, our destiny, to be in bondage forever under a bad system like the Republic of Cameroon. My dear people of Ambazonia, believe in this liberation movement. And like I said, don't join those who are destined for destruction. Those so-called misguided elite. You see what a mere appointed official, Lady Nafik de Ben Chofu, he said that's somebody who is retired at least 5 years ago. But he said, Bia will not put him on retirement. Because the feeling that he knows how to manipulate among the people, he knows how to enforce a killing machine, he knows how to enforce a genocidal agenda. That's why he's still there. But that's him not poking his finger in the eyes of the funds. These funds can't even ask them, what has the colonial administration done since the removal, since the arrest of the fund of Bambala? Where is he? What has the administration done? Yet they are choking them. Go and carry out incantations against your own people. Recall, in our last broadcast, a citizen of the Republic of Cameroon said, and I repeat it here, that the elite, the Anglophone elite, let me say what he said, the Anglophone elite can never win a war against their people. Even the France cannot win a war against those who enthrone them to govern them, to rule over them, following set of traditional principles. They can't. Mr. Lele Lafrique, Adolphe de Benchofo, they can't. They're from Bambi and his band of clowns. That they can't. They failed. A good lot of them, Mr. Lele Lafrique, can't even go back to their palaces. And where do you think they can stand to perform fortification rites? And let me say this, lest you forget. When you get this kind of statement from Mr. Adolphe Lele Lafrique de Benchofo, the colonial governor, who at the same time goes and says, oh, life is returning to normal, just a matter of time, he should clearly educate you to the effect that La République du Cameroun is facing far tougher times in our land than we are seeing. Far tougher times than they are ready to admit. Far difficult moments than they can resist much longer. That's why they are crying. That's why they are crying. Their noses are bleeding. Their nostrils are bleeding daily. They have reached their wits' end to outdo the determination of our young people. Those same young people in Content Ella says he is praising them for their tenacity. Praising them because they are standing up for what they believe in. Our brothers and sisters are fighting for the truth, while La République du Cameroun is fighting to enforce a lie. Sometimes we've said lies might almost be completing its journey around the world while truth is still lacing its shoes. But at the end of the day, truth will overcome lies. Truth will overcome that falsehood. That's why I want each and every one of us to take this off your mind. What I'm about to say now. Then you hear sometimes some people say, oh, because I was on a debate on African media, and that was the subject matter for discussion. Oh, the next president of Cameroon should be an Anglophone. If the next president is an Anglophone, of course, it will change a good lot of things. As if the next president is a citizen from the Southern Cameroons, the former UN Trust Territory of British Southern Cameroons, then it could resolve the Southern Cameroons question, the Ambazonian question, and I laughed. My people, don't ever fall to that. What is happening in La République du Cameroun is not just, it's a system. It's not a matter of persons. It's a system. A system that was put in place since 1961. And it started manifesting since April 21, 1961. Put in place to make sure that we will be treated as second-class citizens. You have to argue. Look at, they create a position of prime minister, and they say the prime minister is head of government. Who is prime minister? Is it not Joseph John Bute? What power does he have? But go on paper and see the expanse of the powers of the prime minister's office. Because it's not just prime minister, head of government. Look at the expanse. There's enormous power in that office. But that power, too often, is rather exercised by the Secretary General, who is under the Prime Minister, because they are generally Francophones and Betty. They are generally citizens of La République du Cameroun and Betty, for that matter. But take away John Bute from that office, replace him with a Louis-Paul Mortazé as Prime Minister, you will know just how much power the Prime Minister's office has. So it's a system. Don't allow yourself to be carried away by some stupid wishful thinking. The only way we really get free to determine our own development priority, to transform our land within a few years, like we have seen Ethiopia being transformed, like we saw Dubai transformed, like we have seen Rwanda being transformed, like we have seen other countries around us being transformed, we have seen Ghana being transformed. The only way we do that is absolute freedom, absolute independence. No two things. I've said here 1,001 times that the Republic du Cameroon is not a country that ever keeps to his word, that ever respects anything. No. And I'll be demonstrating to you right ahead when I open the file with chat. I'll be demonstrating to you. Nowhere has the Republic du Cameroon ever kept to its word. Of course, they played verbal mafia, played verbal Maradona on the Swiss with the framework of the Swiss Peace Initiative. They played serious Maradona with Canada even after committing themselves. After we rented to them, checked all the boxes, they committed themselves in writing, they signed and sealed. They still played rogue. Then you think that is someday you will throw that and say, okay, no, we agreed that this, we agreed that, then we will stand by that. Give this to the dogs. Before I change the subject matter, come back to this. I said a while ago, all routes come weekend, come Saturday, April 29, will lead to Minnesota. All roads will lead to Minnesota. We will all be in Minnesota to commune with our people, with Amazonians in Minnesota. And the venue of that communion on that Saturday, April 29, will be 1355 US 10 Anoka, Minnesota. And the event will begin at 1 p.m. And of course, like I said, this is in continuation of the leadership tour that we put in place in the march towards the All Amazonia Conference that we have convened to be held in July of 2023. So mark that rendezvous and especially don't miss it for nothing. I mean completely nothing in the world. Another quick break and we open the charge and dossier. So don't go away. Thank you very much. After that important break, we move into another very important issue of discussion for this day, and that is the saga between La République du Cameroun and the Chad. And I said a while ago that saga exposes one clear thing, one very important thing. The thing this saga exposes, it is really the fact that La République du Cameroun is a rogue state. I've said it a lot of the times that La République du Cameroun is a rogue state, a country that can never ever, for nothing in the world, respect its own engagements. A country that can never ever, for anything in the world, play by the rules. A country that only believes in permanent thievery, in games. I said La République du Cameroun operates in a world called the make-believe. You know the make-believe world? That's the movie industry world. The world of make-believe. Everything for La République du Cameroun is make-believe. And therefore, they don't ever believe in anything real. That is why anything that comes before them, it is games. Anything that comes before them, it is games. Let me cause us to listen briefly to this Chadian official. And of course, I played this clip here, you've listened to it, and today we are going to do a quick analysis of this.
Communiqué de la présidence de la République. La présidence de la République du Tchad informe l'opinion nationale et internationale de la persistance des différends qui se créent entre le Tchad et le Cameroun, notamment autour de la question de la prétendue acquisition des actifs de l'ex-ESSO par la nébuleuse Savannah Energy, par tous les canaux de communication existants entre le Tchad et le Cameroun. La question a été soumise à l'attention du Cameroun tout en l'informant également des agissements inamicaux et contraires aux intérêts du Tchad posés par ses représentants dans les conseils d'administration de CODCO et CODCO. Plusieurs lettres de suite ont été adressées aux autorités camerounaises. Lettres qui sont restées sans réponse. Il est à noter que dès l'entame des discussions au sujet de la venue de la société Savannah Energy au Tchad,
So, my people of Amazonia, what you are getting this gentleman say here, this is the Secretary General at the presidency of the Republic in Chad. So it's not even a journalist reading that communique, reading that press release. It is, an official from the presidency of the Republic. That was the Minister Secretary General de la Présidence. So this tells you the level at which Chad has elevated this crisis. Because the whole thing is about thievery. The whole thing is about La République du Cameroun carrying its own attitude across borders. La République du Cameroun thought that Chad is already Amazonia. That Chad is already the southern Cameroons, where they can come in, meet a few greedy elites, take them on their side, and work with them to exploit the riches of their country for personal gains, for personal ends. But unfortunately, for La République du Cameroun, Chadians think differently. The young president, Déby in Chad, thinks differently. And that is why, in this community, the gentleman is recalling every single step that La République du Cameroun has taken in trying to, extort from the people of Chad, from their petroleum, from the proceeds of the exploitation, transportation, and sale of their crude oil. Listen on.
il est apparu que derrière cette société gravitaient de nombreuses personnalités camerounaises et d'autres pays africains qui n'ont cessé d'interférer auprès de...
So, let me interrupt there so that you hear this. He says, when the US company ExxonMobil decided to, end their participation in the business, the transaction involving the Republic of Cameroon for the transportation of Chad's crude oil from Doba to Douala, the seaport in Douala, so that it can be loaded into ships, into containers, and carried away. The proceeds from this normally were shared between Cameroon, Chad, and ExxonMobil. But now ExxonMobil decides to end its participation in this deal, and therefore the shares of ExxonMobil will have to be sold by the two remaining partners. That's Cameroon and Chad. And therefore, on the Chadian side, they had different thoughts altogether about what to do with the shares liberated by ExxonMobil. While on the side of the Republic of Cameroon, they already crafted some fake company with no credentials in this business and decided that that company will inherit the shares of ExxonMobil. And therefore, Mr. Secretary General of the Presidency is saying here that Cameroonian authorities had traveled to Chad on several accounts to try to convince the government of Chad to accept to sell all the shares of ExxonMobil to this obscure company known as Savannah Petroleum. But Chad had each time refused. And at this particular point where I stopped him, he was saying, Chad has found out that behind this obscure smokescreen company are senior government officials in Cameroon, including the son of the president of the republic, whose name we will be calling shortly. Let's listen again.
Les officiels tchadiens. En ce jour, 20 avril 2023, par voie de presse, le Tchad a appris la signature d'un accord prévoyant la cession par une filiale de Savannah Energy PLC de 10%.
Now, hear this, and this is very important. While Frank Biya, of course you mentioned that, while Frank Biya, the son of the president of the Republic of Cameroon, had traveled to Chad in September of 2022. Yes, that was September 2022. That's Frank Biya, yes. That was in September 2022. Frank Biya went to N'Djamena to meet the president of Chad, the young Debi. Of course, we all know that Frank Biya has no official function in the government of Cameroon. Although paperwork at the Ministry of Finance shows that Frank Biya has been earning a salary for many years as an advisor, as a special advisor to the President of the Republic, and there will therefore be a decree to that line which has never been made public. So publicly, Frank Biya holds no office in the government apparatus in La République du Cameroun. How Frank Biya therefore finds himself visiting Chad for such official business is something that is baffling. And after this visit by Frank Biya to Chad, which visit did not end up with Mr. Debi accepting that the transaction should go ahead, there was another visit. And this time it was of the Secretary General, the Deputy Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic, Mr. Elumpo Che. He went to Chad for the same reason. Again, the Chadian authorities refused. I think this was even in March. Yeah, this was in March. March 21 to March 30 or whatever. I'm getting mixed up with it. But this is exactly what happened. So Mr. Elumpo Che goes to Chad, to N'Djamena. And again, the Chadian authorities refuse. Why? Because unlike the people of La République du Cameroun, the government of La République du Cameroun, that cares about personal interests, the Chadian authorities wanted to nationalize the shares ceded by ExxonMobil. To nationalize meaning making the proceeds of these particular shares become the shared property of the people of Chad. But on the Cameroon side, the son of the president of the republic, Frank Emmanuel Biya, and his gang of bandits who are preparing him to become the next president, already saw in this an opportunity for them to amass much needed money in their war chest in preparation for the war that they are getting ready to launch to settle him as president in that country. And therefore, despite the refusal of Chad to move in that direction, they even rejected a sum of 2 billion that Frank Emmanuel they are carrying to Chad in bribery and corruption, which is their best sport. This Secretary General of the Presidency is saying that on April 20, Chad learns like every other person that Cameroon had filed paperwork indicating that an agreement had been reached according to which all the shares of ExxonMobil that's seeded by ExxonMobil have been acquired by the obscure company known as Savannah Petroleum Limited. That's what this is. Let's listen on again.
Du capital social de Cameroun Oil Transportation Company SA, COTCO, en contradiction avec les conventions et les statuts de COTCO à la Société nationale des hydrocarbures, SNH, du Cameroun. Sur un autre registre, le Tchad, dans le cadre de l'acquisition des actifs de Petronas, a déposé, en accord avec cette dernière, un dossier d'agrément en bonne et due forme, comprenant le contrat de cession signé entre le Tchad et Petronas auprès des services en charge de la concurrence de la CEMAC, conformément à la réglementation communautaire.
I'm taking time to break this down so we understand what this is all about.
À ce jour,
he knows
plus
that
d'un
the
mois
action
après,
taken by Cameroon
il revient que seul le Cameroun
contrary
n'a pas répondu aux lettres de demande d'avis de non-objection
Number two,
adressées
the
par la
regulations
CEMAC
that they all agree to,
à chaque
and number
ministre
three,
en
the
charge
agreements
du
that were
commerce
in
des pays
place
membres.
with respect to the operation
Lettre
of this
utile
particular transaction.
à la convocation
Very important.
de la Commission de la concurrence
Does
qui
Cameroun
devrait
respect any
statuer
regulations? No.
sur l'acquisition des
The government of Cameroon
actifs de
even
Petronas
even puts in place its own laws, never respects it. Do you recall that the Constitution of Cameroon has in its Article 6 that the President of the Republic and all other officials of a certain rank will have to declare their assets prior to holding office? That has never happened. La République du Cameroon respects no engagements. None. Laws don't exist for La République du Cameroun. Nothing matters. What's the interest of the presidential family and of all the gangsters who have taken that country hostage? Laws don't matter. No regulations, not even international treaties that they have signed matter. They don't. That's why you see them behaving the way they are behaving with Chad. You hear very well because the ExxonMobil mobile through Petronas. So he says why Chad was taking other measures and had already declared everything to the CEMAC commissions with following the established norms to ensure the transfer of the shares of ExxonMobil. La République du Cameroun was behind, playing its own game, and from nowhere publishes that Savannah Petroleum SA had acquired 100% of the shares seeded by ExxonMobil. And mind you, this is over Chadian oil. It's not Cameroonian oil. No. This is over Chadian oil. Chadian oil. That Frank Emmanuel Biya and his cohorts, including Chantal Biya, have put themselves together with a few other gangsters so they could rid the Chadians of the proceeds of their natural resources. Just like they have rid the people of the southern Cameroons of the proceeds of our natural resources that have been tapping from time immemorial. And when you want to ask, they tell you that matters concerning oil are too complicated for the ordinary man to understand. That is why, as Sumo said, it was only between him and Paul Bello could discuss anything concerning oil. Today, They are crossing borders. And this is a huge embarrassment. And that's why Chad has taken the ultimate measure. Oh, yes. Let's listen again.
Par le Tchad. Aussi, le Tchad se trouve une fois de plus dans l'obligation de défendre ses intérêts et sa respectabilité et dénonce les agissements répétés du Cameroun et de ses représentants qui mettent à mal dans ces dossiers et en sémaquent les relations entre les deux pays frères.
So, you hear very well. The man says, faced with this situation, Chad has been disrespected, and therefore the country is obliged to defend its interests, to defend its personality, to ensure its respectability, and therefore condemns the very unbecoming and untoward acts of the rogue government in La République du Cameroun. And he says that the attitude of La République du Cameroun is not only an embarrassment, but it actually affects the nature of relations that existed between Chad and Cameroon, and also affects the mode of operation at the level of CEMAC. Now look at this. When the people of the southern Cameroons, of the former UN Trust territory of British Southern Cameroons, stood up, when we stood up to defend ourselves, to defend our interests, to defend our land, to send La République du Cameroun, the encoded République du Cameroun, packing out of our land, some people say we're terrorists. This is Chad reacting in the toughest manner possible to a rogue system called La République du Cameroun. This should be education enough to all that you don't compromise with a bandit. You don't compromise with a rogue system. You don't compromise with delinquent people who will never ever respect the norms in anything, who know that the rule of law does not exist. It exists maybe only for others, but not for them. That's why Chad says they are obliged to defend the interests of Chad, to ensure the respectability of Chad. Oh yes, that's why we too are up to defend the interests of Amazonia. Cameroon is a delinquent country to all of its neighbors. That's why you see, in Congo, they are chasing away Cameroonians. In Gabon, they are chasing away Cameroonians. In Equatorial Guinea, they are chasing away Cameroonians. In Central African Republic, at times that they also chased away Cameroonians. The only place where Cameroonians were still having some kind of calm and acceptability was Chad. Beginning today, I'm sure that they start looking at Cameroonians in a kind of way. Because this is a delinquent, truculent, recalcitrant, thieving country in the midst of all its neighbors. In Amazonia, we are sending away the Republic to Cameroon for the same reasons. Let's listen to him and finish.
Par conséquent, le Tchad décide du rappel pour consultation de son ambassadeur auprès de la République du Cameroun.
So, simply put, at the end of the day, Chad therefore recalls its ambassador to Yaoundé in diplomatic parlance, that is at the sum of measures that you take. And how did we get here? How did they get here? Because despite all the rogue approaches being taken by officials of the Biya government, sending Frank Biya to Chad, sending Elum Porche to Chad, meeting in other avenues, the president of Chad had struggled a lot to have this matter sorted out with Biya in person. The Republic doesn't have a president. They have a monarch who is reigning where others are ruling. Oh yes, everybody in their own sphere is ruling. And when Laurent Esowe comes to justice, he's the Alpha and the Omega. That's his own sphere. He is ruling there where Biya is reigning. At Tanga Point, the same thing. Everybody in their own corner, same thing. Leopold Motaze, same thing. He decides to send billions upon billions to Amubu Beniga to prepare also to fight for the position of president of the republic when the time comes. Because there is no ruler. There is a monarch who is reigning. And therefore, the young president Debi tried as much as he could to sort out this thing with Paul Biya. And he finally was only able to meet Paul Biya during the CEMAC summit. At which Paul Biya gave him assurances that no, the concern you've raised will be handled. But he didn't. They didn't handle them. And so the frustration of getting to the point of recalling Chad's ambassador to Yaoundé is because the young Debi tried as much as he could. When you hear them talk about Chad has been insulted, minimized, and they have to restore their respectability, it's because the president of Chad is not able to talk to Biya and they tell him at the presidency that he can't access Biya, he should talk to others. They felt they were joking with a small boy who was a pizza papa who can just grind him after all. His father is no more there, he's a small boy. Paul Biya is about, is it 40 or whatever, or whatever. Paul Biya is about 90 and counting, and you want to come and stand and think that you are. No. No. La République du Cameroun forgot that at the United Nations, it is one man, one vote, one country, one vote. That La République du Cameroun, which is over 30 million citizens, as they claim, I hope they are not counting Amazonians in this, we have just one vote like Equatorial Guinea, that doesn't have 1 million people. We have just one vote like Gabon, that has less than 2 million people. We have just one vote like the Central African Republic, that has somewhere under 4 million people. One vote like Chad, that has under 6 million people. One vote like Sao Tome and Principe. I've never even found that the population of that. I'm not sure they will have up to 500,000 people. Oh yes. So therefore you can't sit in your corner and say I'm a patriarch, and so this is a small boy. No. He's a country. Oh yes. I was like, French President Macron will come to Washington and President Joe Biden tells him plus 80 and therefore a small boy like you just turned 40 or so, you can't come and be talking to me. No. Macron is not his age. Macron is France. International Relations 101. That's what it is. So the Republic du Cameroun citizens today, rather than coming out to condemn what their fellow citizens, their so-called thieving monarchical family is doing, quite some of them, calling themselves intellectuals, come out and they're defending the rogue attitude of the Republic du Cameroun. I followed on some of their local media. Oh, because they say we are patriotic, you see, Chad has gone too far. Why did they not use other means to take the thing to the public? Right to the point of going too far, recalling the ambassador. No, they should have. Come on, give me a break. Everybody's not a fool. Huh? That's why. You see, the Bible says, Bia loses the beast filial respect. In this diplomatic face-off, and of course I saw a writer by Maurice Campo, in which he simply asked the Cameroon government to go cap in hand before Chad to fix a situation that they created. But you see, in the face of all this, now everything is spilled to the public. The international reputation of Cameroon is again totally shattered. I had the opportunity to tell one very important international personality when we were involved in the pre-talks of the Republic of Cameroon in Canada. I had the opportunity to tell this personality that you are asking us to be lenient with Cameroon in wordings and everything, just give them the benefit of the doubt. La République du Cameroon is a country that never deserves the benefit of the doubt any day, anytime, anyhow. And I took time and cited a litany of instances where La République du Cameroon could have demonstrated at least small that they deserve anybody's respect on the international scene or anywhere at all. But they couldn't meet that test. And therefore, don't ever tell anyone to take anything for granted of La République du Cameroon. That is why Chad acted the way it acted. They need to hit the hand on the table and hit it very hard for Yaoundé to know that that whole nonsense will respect you, that your old but is finished. It's over. That is it. And the attitude of the government silent, as Charles recalls ambassador. Of course. Did you expect the government of Cameroon to say a thing? No. They will be silent like this, trying calculating which lies they will come out and spew to the public. Oh yes. Sounds familiar? That is who La République du Cameroon is. That's who they have been from time immemorial. When they are caught hanging back, they will stay quiet, and at the end of the day, the press release that will come out of the Ministry of Communication will be for people who are not of this planet. Oh yes. Oh yes. It will absolutely be of people who are not part of this planet. It will be. This is who La République du Cameroon has been from time immemorial. This is why I say to all the people of Amazonia, we don't have to relent. We don't have to relent one bit in our effort to check La République du Cameroon out of our territory. Oh no, we don't have to. Because like I said, to put this clean, Chad is a landlocked country. Landlocked meaning they don't have access to the sea. When oil is discovered in Chad, they need to be able to evacuate this oil to some shores, to some port, so that this oil will then be loaded in containers and transported and exported. Chad had the option. Chad could have worked even with Nigeria. Chad would have worked even with Equatorial Guinea. It's true, it could be a bit far, but Chad could have worked with them. Chad could have worked with Congo. Don't forget, even Libya wanted to work with Chad on this. But the Chadians felt they had very fraternal relations with Cameroon. And it will benefit the two countries if they got into something like this. That is how, in agreement, they said that they had to construct a pipeline. Take note that it is the same thing that the Republic of Cameroon is doing in Amazonia. That all the oil being drilled in Amazonia and the one produced and the petrol produced in Sonara is transported through an underground pipeline to Douala. Oh yes, through an underground pipeline to Douala. The crude oil transported through an underground pipeline to Douala, where it is shipped off. Why? Because the Republic did not want to build a deep sea port in Limbe, in Victoria. So it is that kind of pipeline that was constructed from Doba in Chad. Over 1,000 kilometers, over 1,000 miles, I beg your pardon. Over 1,000 miles to transport the crude oil from Chad to the seaport in Cameroon. And on this, therefore, Cameroon had to earn transport rights. And so, Chad, Cameroon, and ExxonMobil agreed to carry out this project. And there were clear-cut agreements. How Cameroon, at the end of the day, wants to be at the controlling end of transactions on Chadian oil defeats any kind of imagination. But it just tells us who we have been living with, who we have been dealing with. So, my people of Amazonia, don't close your eyes. Don't ever close your eyes. We should never, ever let La République du Cameroun subdue us forever, because we will be finished. Yes. Oh no. Maybe we have been finished for a while. But at that time, we will be completely finished. God forbid that we let that happen. So before I go, my people, it's really been a marathon day today. Let me remind our brethren out there in Minnesota, in the Midwestern, the Midwest, all the Southern Cameroonians in the Midwest, we will call this the Midwest Southern Cameroons Conference. This meeting will be on April 29th, that's next Saturday. Time 1 p.m. Venue 1355 US 10 Anoka, Minnesota. Don't miss this important rendezvous. Like I said, this meeting is a build-up to the All Amazonia Conference that will be held sometime in July 2023. So therefore, if you are in Minnesota or anywhere in the vicinity, make sure you are part of this event. We will all be there. In fact, I have completed arrangements for my travel and I will be there. We will all be there. We will take all manner of questions. We will exchange together. We will discuss strategies. We will look at the strengths and the weaknesses of our liberation movement. And we will together chart a way forward as we move into the AAC, from whence we expect to, roar far stronger, far louder than we have roared before. Thank you for your kind attention. Until our next broadcast, have a nice time.